You've been lied to. Every dating coach, every social media expert, every well-meaning friend who told you to keep talking, keep explaining, keep impressing was dead wrong. Women don't crave endless words. They don't respect constant reassurance. They don't even fall in love because of what you say. They fall in love because of how they feel in your presence. And here's the bitter truth. The more you talk, the less she feels. The more you try to convince her with explanations, the more you drain the very tension that makes her want you. Silence, controlled, intentional silence, has more power over her heart than 1,000 words ever could. Most men don't understand this. They believe that women want endless attention, compliments, and constant expressions of love. They pour themselves out, hoping she'll finally see their worth. And what happens? She pulls away. She gets colder. She begins to treat you like background noise, not the man who could change her world. Why? Because women don't measure a man by his words. They measure him by his presence. And presence cannot be faked. It's either there or it isn't. Think about the men women obsess over. They're not the ones who send 5 long paragraphs at midnight. They're not the ones trying to convince her with logic or flowery speeches. They're the ones who say little, yet hold everything. They're the men who can sit in silence without looking weak. The men who let her feel the weight of their mystery. That silence makes her restless, curious, and even afraid of losing him. It makes her respect him, because she knows he isn't begging for her approval. You see, talking is easy. Any man can talk. But silence? Silence is a weapon only a man with inner strength can carry. It says, I don't need to fill this space. I am enough as I am, and that is the energy women cannot resist. Let me make this painfully clear. Women want a man they can feel, not just a man they can hear. When you fall into the trap of constant talking, you rob her of the emotional experience of wondering about you, chasing you, and respecting you. You give away your power because you don't realize the psychology that drives attraction. A woman's desire is built in the spaces you leave open, not in the noise you create. This is why so many good men lose in love. They do everything they were taught. They share their feelings, they explain their plans, they express their intentions, and yet they watch her slip away into the arms of a man who barely says anything at all, but makes her feel everything. That's when the heartbreak sets in, when you start asking yourself, what does she see in him that she didn't see in me? The answer isn't complicated. She saw strength. She saw a man who wasn't desperate to convince her with words, but one who let his energy do the talking. If you want a woman to respect you, stop trying to explain yourself. Stop filling every silence with noise. Start realizing that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. And presence is the one thing women crave, because it is the rarest thing to find. There's a reason silence unsettles women, and it's not because they dislike it. It's because silence forces them to feel. When you stop talking, you strip away the distractions. She can't hide behind your words, she can't drown in explanations, and she can't escape into the comfort of knowing exactly where she stands. Instead, she's left with the raw energy between you, the unspoken tension that makes her heart race and her mind wander. And that, right there, is where attraction is born. Think about the times you've tried too hard. You sent the extra text. You repeated yourself just to make sure she understood. You told her again and again how much you cared, hoping she'd finally return the energy. And what happened? She grew colder. She didn't lean closer. She leaned away. Because what you thought would make her feel safe actually suffocated her. Women don't fall for the man who needs to be heard all the time. They fall for the man who can hold back and still command attention. Psychologists know this well. The human brain values scarcity. When something is rare, we automatically give it more importance. This is why women will ignore a man who spills his every thought but chase the one who speaks rarely, with weight and certainty. Words are cheap. Presence is rare. Mystery is priceless. When you talk less, every word you do speak becomes powerful. It lands differently. It carries weight. It's not just noise, it's influence. But here's the uncomfortable truth most men never accept. Women don't actually want everything laid out in front of them. They don't want a man who tells them every detail, every plan, every feeling. That strips away the chase, the discovery, the emotional pull. What they truly want is a man who allows them the space to imagine, to wonder, to question, to feel. It's not the words that make her fall. It's the unanswered questions. It's the way she thinks about you after you've left the room, the way she replays your silence and wonders, what is he thinking? What is he hiding? What makes him so sure of himself? This is why women are drawn to confident men without them even trying. Confidence isn't about walking into a room and talking the loudest. It's about walking into a room and not needing to say anything at all. It's the calm certainty that you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. And when a woman senses that, her instincts awaken. She knows she's in the presence of someone different, someone rare, someone she could lose. And that fear of loss is more powerful than any word of love you could ever speak. Men lose women not because they aren't good enough, but because they give away the mystery too quickly. They open their soul before she's even earned it. They explain themselves before she even asked the question. And in doing so, they rob her of the one thing her psychology needs most, the space to chase, to respect, and to desire. Silence is not absence. It is presence multiplied. It tells her, I don't need to beg for your attention. I am my own gravity. And when you understand this, you'll never again feel the urge to over-explain. You'll never again rush to fill the silence. Instead, you'll watch as she leans in, as her curiosity grows, as her respect for you deepens. Because now, she doesn't just see a man, she feels one. A woman's deepest attraction isn't built in what you tell her. It's built in what you withhold. And this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how female psychology works at its core. When you reveal everything too quickly, you rob her of the journey. You deny her the chance to peel back your layers, to earn your truth, to feel like she is discovering a man worth her time. That discovery is what fuels her emotions, and without it, she becomes restless, uninterested, and eventually detached. This is the paradox of desire. Women don't want what is handed to them freely. They want what they must reach for, what they must work for, what they must feel they could lose at any moment. And silence, your ability to withhold, is the doorway to that feeling. It creates a vacuum, a subtle tension she cannot escape. She starts analyzing every glance, every pause, every little action, because you're not feeding her with endless words. You're letting her imagination do the work, and her imagination will always paint you in stronger colors than your words ever could. Most men destroy this dynamic because they confuse communication with attraction. Yes, communication builds understanding, but attraction thrives on tension, not explanations. If you're always talking, always clarifying, always giving her the roadmap, then there's nothing left for her to chase. And without the chase, her desire starves. That's why women respect men who can sit in silence without panic. Because silence signals self-control. It says, I don't need to force this moment. I am the moment, picture this. Two men, both interested in the same woman. One keeps filling the air with chatter, compliments, promises, even nervous jokes. He thinks he's charming her, but in reality, he's erasing himself. She's smiling politely, but in her mind, she already knows, this man is trying too hard. The second man, though, says less. He listens more. He answers with short, certain words. He looks her in the eye, and when silence arrives, he doesn't rush to fill it. He just lets it breathe. And that silence drives her wild, not because she wants words, but because she feels his strength in the quiet. She senses his presence without him having to prove anything. And deep down, she respects him. This is the man she thinks about after the night is over. This is the man she tells her friends feels different. And this is the man she cannot shake from her mind, no matter how much she tries. Why? Because he didn't give himself away too easily. He gave her something priceless, uncertainty. And uncertainty is the spark that keeps her up at night, wondering where she stands, wondering if she can have him, wondering what will happen next. Now, I need you to hear this clearly. Women do not want a man who hides behind silence out of fear. They want a man who chooses silence out of strength. There's a world of difference between avoiding words because you're insecure and withholding words because you don't need them. Insecurity is weak, but restraint is magnetic. If you learn to master this restraint, you stop being another forgettable man with empty words. You become the man she respects, the man she fears losing, the man she talks about when you're not even there, because presence speaks louder than any voice. And silence, when carried by the right man, is the loudest language she'll ever hear. Every man thinks he needs to impress a woman with the right lines, the perfect compliments, or the smoothest conversation. But the truth? Women don't remember lines, they remember feelings. And nothing makes a woman feel more alive than a man who can shift the energy of a room without saying a word. That's the difference between the men she entertains and the man she respects. Silence is not about withholding affection, it's about demonstrating control. Control over your emotions, control over your impulses, and most importantly, control over the need for approval. Most men lose respect because they chase it. They beg for it with constant attention, explanations, and approval-seeking words. But the men women cannot forget are the ones who are already whole within themselves. They don't need validation, and that independence radiates like fire. She feels it. She senses that he could walk away at any moment, and that possibility keeps her hooked. Women want to be drawn into a man's world, not drowned in his words. The man who speaks less leaves more room for her imagination to work. And here's a secret most men never realize. Her imagination is far more powerful than your explanations. When you stop giving her everything, she starts filling in the blanks herself, and her mind will make you larger, stronger, and more magnetic than you could ever describe with words. But here's the catch. Silence only works when it comes from strength, not fear. If you go quiet because you're insecure, she feels it instantly. That kind of silence repels. But if you go quiet because you are composed, because you know your presence is enough, she leans in closer. That kind of silence pulls her in. The same action, silence, can either expose weakness or radiate power. The difference lies in your intent. Think about how you carry yourself in those quiet moments. Do you fidget? Do you look away? Do you scramble to fill the gap with nervous chatter? Or do you hold eye contact, relax your body, and let her sit in the weight of your calm? Women are finely tuned to pick up on these subtle cues. They know instantly whether your silence is empty or commanding. And that subtle difference is the line between being forgettable and being unforgettable. This is why women are drawn to men of mystery, not because they enjoy confusion, but because mystery demands respect. A man who doesn't rush to explain himself communicates something deeper. He has boundaries, he has standards, and he doesn't feel the need to prove himself. That energy is intoxicating because it's rare. Most men crumble under the pressure of silence, but the man who thrives in it, he's the one she'll stay up thinking about. Understand this. Women want to feel like they've earned your truth, not that it was handed to them like spare change. When you hold back, you invite her to step forward. You create a natural pull. And when she finally earns your words, they hit harder, they matter more, and they sink deeper. That is how you build real respect and lasting attraction, not by saying more, but by letting every word you do say carry the weight of gold. Here's the truth most men are terrified to face. The reason she loses interest isn't because you're not good enough. It's because you give her everything too soon. You talk too much, you explain too much, you reveal too much before she's even earned it. And in doing so, you erase the very tension her psychology needs to feel alive. Women don't crave clarity, they crave curiosity. They don't want the full picture handed to them on day one. They want to piece it together, slowly, painfully, deliciously, like solving a puzzle that only she gets to unlock. When you strip her of that experience by over-explaining, you rob her of the chase. And when there's no chase, there's no respect. It's not about playing games, it's about protecting your value. Imagine this, if you walk into a jewelry store and the owner begs you to take the diamonds for free, would you value them? Of course not. But if those diamonds are locked behind glass, guarded, scarce, and costly, you'll obsess over them. That's how women experience men. Words are free, constant, cheap. Presence is guarded, rare, and unforgettable. The man she respects isn't the man who tries to convince her. It's the man who doesn't need to. He can sit across from her, calm, collected, with no urge to fill the air, and she feels his worth in every second of that silence. That silence makes her wonder, what is he thinking? Why isn't he chasing? Why does he seem so certain of himself? And those questions dig deeper into her heart than 1,000 compliments ever could. But let me expose a painful truth. Men fear silence more than women do. Most of you feel naked in it. You think she'll lose interest if you're not constantly entertaining her, constantly proving yourself. But that fear is exactly what kills her attraction. A woman doesn't respect a man who is afraid of her silence. She respects the man who can own it, who can look her in the eye and be perfectly fine with the tension. That's the man she feels safe with, because his strength is undeniable. And here's the irony. The less you talk, the more she talks. The less you reveal, the more she reveals. The more you sit in silence, the more she fills it with her emotions, her stories, her vulnerability. And suddenly, she's the one investing in you. She's the one chasing. She's the one feeling the pull she can't resist. That's how the dynamic shifts, from you chasing her respect to her fighting for yours. This is the hidden psychology no one ever told you. Women don't want a man who gives himself away too easily. They want a man who demands to be earned, a man who carries himself with quiet strength, a man who doesn't drown her in noise, but forces her to feel the weight of his presence. That's why silence is not weakness. It's a storm disguised as calm, and only the rarest men know how to wield it. The question you need to ask yourself is this: are you the man who talks because he's afraid of being forgotten? Or are you the man who says less because he knows he'll never be ignored? Silence isn't emptiness, it's power. A woman doesn't respect the man who floods her with words. She respects the man whose presence lingers even when he says nothing. She craves that mix of safety and uncertainty, the calm that steadies her yet keeps her curious. Most men smother her with explanations, but the rare man leaves her space to feel. That's why silence works. It creates tension, and tension creates desire. When you stop proving and start embodying, she leans in. She begins to chase. She starts to invest. Your silence becomes gravity, and her psychology can't resist orbiting around it. What women actually want isn't endless talk. It's a man they can feel. Not a man who explains himself into the ground, but one who radiates strength in silence. That quiet confidence tells her everything. You don't beg, you don't break, and you don't need approval. That's what makes her respect you, miss you, and fear losing you. Words fade, but presence imprints. The question is, when silence falls between you and her, do you panic and fill it, or do you hold it and let her feel your strength? Comment below, subscribe for more, and share this with a man who needs to hear it.